Coming up in today's video, ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about it. A former AEW and WWE star literally going off in a public interview about Tony Khan, and we're going to dissect that. Also, in addition to that, Becky Lynch has some heat for her promo on Monday Night Raw, and yes, we are going to talk about a new AEW signing, and it's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. And if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. This way, you can always stay up to date with everything that is happening in professional wrestling. You never want to miss a video, especially when we got to talk about things like this. Kelly Osbourne, the daughter of Ozzy Osbourne, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, the guy who is just... everybody knows who Ozzy Osbourne is. And of course, he has been very instrumental in WWE as well. He's made past appearances with the company. His daughter has come out and says, at Becky Lynch fan, which is kind of crazy because I don't think that's actually Becky Lynch's handle. But you are a disrespectful dirtbag. Birmingham would not piss on you if you were on fire. Hashtag Birmingham forever. Shame on the WWE for allowing such things to be said about my father and his home. Now, a lot of people are wondering whether or not Becky Lynch went too far in her promo on Monday Night Raw. And honestly, I can't even remember it exactly word for word, but she was saying something about Ozzy Osbourne being from Birmingham, and the only good thing about Birmingham was him, but he died. And listen, this has generated a lot of conversation on social media, and I just wonder, has everybody gone soft? This is professional wrestling. This is where heels will say heelish things. It is not a true representation of them as a person. It is not a true representation of the company. This is what characters on television do. And I thought this was absolutely insane to be checking social media, to be going on the computer this morning, only to find out there is all of this outrage. At the end of the day, Becky Lynch did what Becky Lynch will do, and that is to continue to deliver some great promos. And quite frankly, I am getting kind of annoyed with this idea that heels have to be very, very careful with what they're saying, because at the end of the day, Becky Lynch was not making a personal target out of Ozzy Osbourne. In fact, I don't look at it that way at all. Now, of course, what do wrestlers do when they go to different cities and they are a heel? I don't know. Maybe for like the last 20 years that I've been watching wrestling or something, they just always disrespect the hometown. And that's kind of their job. That's their job. It's to get heat. I think people need to separate wrestlers and storytelling from like the actual people themselves. I think this criticism to Becky Lynch is really unfair. And to be honest with you guys, it's quite annoying. I don't understand why people have a hard time separating a television show that is scripted from like actual real life, but here we are talking about it today. That brings us to our next topic. Ladies and gentlemen, a new AEW signing has been revealed. This is Nathan Cruz, who is a veteran wrestler from the UK, the United Kingdom, and he revealed today that he has signed with AEW in a new post on social media. Now, for those who don't know, he says he's been sitting on this news for a while, and it's finally a relief to be able to talk about it publicly. If you guys are from the UK, then you probably know about Nathan Cruz, especially because of his work in Progress. He was the first ever Progress champion. He was also a two-time tag team champion. We saw him make some appearances for WWE NXT in the past, but he never signed with WWE. He came out with a statement. He says, "What an amazing week. I am so grateful to AEW and Tony Khan for this incredible opportunity to join the team as a coach and agent. Everyone has been so welcoming, and I couldn't be more proud to be joining a team that last night set an attendance record for professional wrestling inside the O2 Arena in London. I've been sitting on this news for quite a while, and it's a relief to finally talk about it. After 19 years in this industry, many ups and many downs that have been well documented for those who know my career, this honestly means more than I could put into words. Thank you." I think this is cool. I mean, obviously, you know, I've said this several times on the channel. I've mentioned this greatly. When it comes to talent in professional wrestling who have experience, maybe they are not designed to be a TV star, but it doesn't mean they can't have a career in professional wrestling. Nathan Cruz is an example of this, where he can go to AEW, help the company, grow the company, help produce great matches, help develop talent who might need a little bit extra help, And I've been complimenting AEW about this for a while because they tend to sign a lot of producers and a lot of coaches and a lot of agents. And I think that's a really, really good thing. And especially with AEW not having a training ground for their talent, they're not having a developmental system. A lot of AEW's approach is already signing professional wrestlers who have experience. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate well for absolutely everybody. And so the idea is if you're not going to have a developmental system, at least what you could do is have more veterans join your lineup of coaches and agents. I think it is a smart move, and I recognize that it's one of the things I think AEW does pretty damn well. Again, not everybody is meant for TV. Not everybody's meant to be a TV star. Not everybody's going to win a WrestleMania main event. Not everybody's going to make it to WWE Raw. Not everybody's going to make it to SmackDown or Dynamite or Collision or TNA Impact. But the reality is, in the professional wrestling industry, there are still lucrative ways to be successful without having that spotlight on them. And I think that's a good thing. And that brings us to our final topic, Jake Hager going off absolutely on Tony Khan. This is all because of an interview that he did with Chris Van Vliet. I highly recommend that you guys check it out in its entirety, and the link will be in the description down below. Chris Van Vliet continues to kill it with the interviews, but Jake Hager here had done a lot of talking about Tony Khan, and I want to read some of this to you guys that has been transcribed. So really, he's not happy with Tony Khan, and there's a couple things that he mentioned, and then I'll give you guys my opinion. So the first thing is when it came to contract renegotiations, basically he felt insulted by Tony Khan because he was there for the debut episode, he was there for the Stadium Stampedes. Long story short, Tony Khan only offered him a new contract for 18 and a half months. That looked like an insult to Jake Hager, which obviously a shorter contract like that means less security. But basically, Jake Hager felt like the offer was an insult. There's this kind of talk that exists in the wrestling world that sometimes you're given a contract offer just for the sake of them looking good, but with the intention of you turning it down. This kind of feels like one of those things. Jake Hager also goes on to talk about the CM Punk situation and Tony Khan's professionalism, or shall I say lack of professionalism. He says Tony Khan wasn't a professional. After all the Punk shit that went down, the boys got together and we had a meeting, and it was a boys-only meeting. No office, right? We're all like Stings in there, Jericho, Big Show, Brian, Mox. They're all standing at the front, kind of like talking us through this stuff. And lo and behold, guess who comes into the room storming? Daddy's Little Billionaire, and he's like yelling at us. We were all feeling disrespected, and I still to this day wish I would have stood up and said, a lot of things, but like you just told Sting that you're going to put them in a 6-man in 6 minutes, then you're going to honor him for his retirement. We became his little playthings. He also then goes on to say that Tony Khan could not take criticism from veteran talent. He says that he believes this management style led to a decline in his own personal passion for the business. He said we had to wait outside his office. His storylines were very good at debuting, but he could never carry anything through. And then got to the point where I'm carrying on, but it got to the point where I couldn't tell him anything. He couldn't take criticism. He was effing up. And we were all just having to deal with it. We all had blood, sweat, and tears put into that company. We were all there at the beginning. Like, we all had our careers behind us that helped build that company. And then we had to just sit side by side and couldn't do anything because he wanted to run it the way he wanted to run it. Now, listen, some of these things that he's saying are things that I've often criticized AEW for. Now, with that being said, my question here is, would Jake Hager be talking about this if Tony Khan offered him a better contract? I don't know. I really don't know. But it is kind of interesting hearing a former talent talk about his experience there, and then immediately the sickos are trying to diminish it as if Jake Hager really has any benefit to it. If you guys didn't know, Jake Hager's done wrestling. He's retired. So he has no benefit from trying to get another contract with AEW or whatever it may be. He's simply telling you guys his experience. I think it's always interesting. Not everybody's having the same experience as Jake Hager. I'm sure everybody else has a different experience and different thought process, but that was his. I think some of the things he's criticized Tony Khan for are things you might have heard on my channel for the last 6 years. At the end of the day, everybody's going to have a different perspective. But it just sucks because you don't want this kind of stuff to be aired out there. But who knows? Maybe this will cause some change for AEW. Maybe it won't. But It is out there, and if you guys didn't listen to it, you should. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.